But for our next session, we decided that we wanted to switch things up a little bit, not have the same old panel discussion. And so we are actually about to invite you to join us for an informal living room style chat with some of the women that were featured in this year's remarkable Feminist Voices in Transport publication, which you can see around the room, but looks like this. And I know the team is very, very proud of how it all came together, and I'm looking forward to seeing some of the women again on stage. This group who are going to join us come from different global backgrounds and experiences, and we really hope the discussion will be thought-provoking, provide a holistic snapshot of the study tour that we held back in March in Berlin for those that were able to attend, as well as highlight some insights from the women about the nuanced approaches to a gender-equitable transport system. What they'll discuss will not encompass everyday details for the female experience in the transport sector. Of course, it's, like I said, very nuanced, very intersectional, but will hopefully provide some food for thought and a starting point to carry on some of your discussions throughout the day. The power of having all these women on one stage together has to be celebrated, and I'm really excited to listen and learn from them. So with that, I'm actually going to invite Kalpana Viswanath to the stage, who is our session moderator and is also one of our remarkable women, co-founder of Safety Pin, as you've heard earlier, board member of SlowCat, and member of the advisory group on gender issues for the UN Habitat. So welcome, Kalpana.
Good morning. I am really moved to be here, and I must say, Robin, your speech did, I think, get a lot of us to tear up a bit. But thank you for being so honest. And I think, when Verena was talking about the 2018 conference, Women Mobilize Women, it was actually probably, like Insa said, one of the top 3 for most of us in our life, because it was one of the first times that we could really just be women at a conference. We didn't have to, try and fit into a conference which was not designed for us. So I really do thank the GIZ, TUMI, Women Mobilize Women for giving this space. And then this year, in March, they gave us something even more special. And a few of us, I think nearly 20 of us, the others couldn't make it, were invited to Berlin for a study tour. When I think about the study tour, I really want to highlight a few things. I think if you look at the 3 words, feminist, transport, community, right? We're talking about remarkable feminists. But what we're talking about, one, when you speak about feminist, I think it is truly significant. Even last year when I came for the TUMI conference, the minister talked about a feminist policy, and I think that is truly significant, because we're not just talking about inclusion of gender. We're actually talking about feminism, because feminism is much more than inclusion to me. It's also about equity, it's about voice, it's about opening up the politics behind gender roles. So I think it's a much more powerful word. So, I think it's nice to reclaim feminism as a word. I think in between, for a while, it had become a bit of like everyone wants to say, I'm all for women's rights, but I'm not a feminist. And I think it's great that we're reclaiming it. Transport, which is the second part of it, and I think the Minister, Schulz, talked about it really well, where she said that, transport provides us opportunities. At the end of the day, I've been working now with Safety Pin for 10 years, and I realize it's actually about being able to move safely. It's really nothing else. If you can move safely without fear, you do have equitable opportunities. But the third part of this, the feminist transport, is the community, right? And that is the point, that we cannot change the world alone. No single organization can really make that much of a difference. But when we decide to collaborate and when we decide to work together and not compete, I think we can really change the world. And I think that's what, as women, we have to continue to do. And I think many men are part of this journey with us. But I think women can lead it. Because, like Robin said, it's a stereotype that women carry the burden of the work of care, but it is I think we should change the word from burden, and it gives you a very different way of looking at the world. And I think men who are doing it now are recognizing that it is a freedom to be able to think about other people, to actually give a prominence to caring and love in your life, and not only think about yourself. So I think it's really, truly a revolutionary way of thinking where we can prioritize love, care, friendship. So these were the three sort of main elements of the study tour, and I just want to, before I call on the rest of the speakers and my friends who we spent a whole week together, I think there were a few real high points of that. One was, it was during our study tour that the German parliament announced that feminist development and foreign policy. So it was super exciting to be here, and we actually visited the German parliament in that period, and that was, we felt we were part of a historical moment in that sense, and I think that was one very high moment. The other was taking a selfie on the subway. 15, 18 of us trying to get into one selfie. I don't think we did better than the Oprah one at the Oscars, but we tried our best, and we had a great selfie, which you will see on a lot of social media, so that was super fun. And also taking the subway and, understanding the public transport. It was very moving, and I think, the participants, all of us who came, we spoke from our heart. We spoke of our challenges. There were many moments of vulnerability, of sharing challenges, moments when you thought you would not get past this, and I think all of us have those moments. And when we share it, it makes the other person feel somehow more cared, because you feel you're not alone, because there's no human being who doesn't feel low, who doesn't feel that I'm not going to get past this, I don't know if I can do this. But when you hear other people say, this happened to me, in a conference, in a space, which we did 5 years ago here, I think that moves you in a very different way. And I think that was a very special few days that all of us had together. And finally, the award ceremony was fantastic, but at the end of it, we danced like crazy. We danced to Bollywood music, Latin music, rock, pop, reggae, disco, everything. We were like on the dance floor. And I think that really helped us bond, but it also was a way of moving the body. As Robin talked about the body, dance, exercise, bicycling, walking, these are all physical things which make you feel different when you do it. And I think that was another very, very high point and super, super fun point. I think everyone who was there will agree with that. So, without any further words, I'm going to invite my friends who were there with me, and some of those who were not, but who are part of the remarkable Feminist Voices 2023. Sonal Shah from the Urban Catalyst. And Andrea San Gil Leon from Costa Rica. Cyprine Odada from Kenya. Yasmine Al Moghrabi, our youth mobilizer. Keisha Mayuga, the young woman who's cycling through Germany at this point. Robin. We were supposed to have two more people. Laura Ballesteros, the former Minister of Transport from Mexico, who unfortunately yesterday gave us a sad news that she was down with COVID and couldn't make it. So we're really sad. And Naomi Mora from the Flown Initiative, I think whose flight, she's just landing a little later, so she also couldn't be here. So, hi again, everyone. Why don't you just quickly start with an introduction? I think we'll start with Yasmine. Yeah, really 1 minute, one sentence about why you enjoy who you are, where you work, but also why you enjoy being a woman in the mobility sector.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I am Yasmine Al Moghrabi. I am from Lebanon and I live in USA. I am the regional youth leader of road safety in North America. I'm so happy and excited to be here today. Follow your dreams, follow your passion, follow your effort. This sentence reminds me every time I insist in improving what a young woman, road safety advocate can do. We are not just the leaders, we are champions that make cities sustainable and road safer for everyone, really for everyone. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, there. Hi, my name is Keisha Mayuga. I'm from the Philippines, but I've been living in Berlin for a year and a half, finishing my master's in sustainable mobility, and I just finished, so I'm currently in a cycling trip from Berlin to Spain for 2 months, and this is kind of just like a little stop. Yeah. So before that, actually, and until now, I'm a cycling advocate, and I've been fighting for better cycling infrastructure in the Philippines, especially during the pandemic. So that was the opportunity of a lifetime to introduce everybody to cycling. So I founded an initiative that gave bicycles to more than 1,500 nurses and doctors because public transport was down. And then after that, like, what do you do next? You know, there's no infrastructure. So I kind of helped the government create 500 kilometers of bike lanes within 6 months in the whole of the country for the first time ever. So why do I love, thank you. Why do I love doing what I'm doing? Because, I don't know, I have so much energy even after 1,000 kilometers of cycling. But I feel like, you know, when I'm cycling by myself, a lot of people are surprised. Like, you alone, a young woman? And someday I want that to be, you know, not so surprising, actually. Yes, me, alone, a young woman, trying to do something different, trying to, cycle the world, maybe. But yeah, that's enough about me. I'm going to pass it now to Sonal.
Good morning. I'm Sonal, founder of the Urban Catalysts. We are based in Delhi, but I've worked in multiple geographies. What do I like about being a woman in the sector? I like being a misfit. I'm comfortable with being a misfit, and that's why I'm in the sector. Thank you. I'm just going to say hello and pass it on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea San Gil. I'm from Costa Rica. I'm the founder of an NGO called the Center for Urban Sustainability. We work in trying to advance a transition towards more inclusive, resilient, and sustainable cities. I founded it because I was tired of my country understanding sustainability as only green and conservation, and I knew we needed to push for a perspective of the role of cities being active in this transformation and of sustainability being beyond green. I've also now transitioned to being co-founder of Agile City Partners and the Global Network for Popular Transportation. We're going to be talking about that in a while after lunch. But I think the thing that makes me the proudest about being a woman in the sector is opening the way to other women. When there's representation, more women and younger women feel more comfortable in trying and coming into the sector. And I've seen it. Our organization has brought in so many talented and brave and insightful women. And I'm not sure if that had happened. I'm not sure that that would have happened if it was a man leading it. So being able to open the way for more women to create impact and to be happy doing what they're doing and generate change is enough for me to feel happy about it.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cyprine Odada, and I am the organizer of Critical Mass Nairobi. And Critical Mass Nairobi is a movement by cyclists for cyclists, and we advocate for sustainable mobility in Nairobi and also inspire other cities to have similar movements. What inspires me to do what I'm doing? I was sharing a story about my background. So I am an urban planner. That's what I went to school to do. And then I became a cyclist, and I denounced my profession as an urban planner. I felt, when I started cycling, I saw and experienced firsthand what my profession was doing to people. I felt embarrassed. I did not want to associate myself with that profession. So I became an activist, a gentle activist. And I created this platform called Critical Mass Nairobi, where I would inspire other people to see what I am seeing, experience what I am experiencing, and call out the challenges and the things that we want for ourselves. The movement began back in 2014. We were less than 20 cyclists, and I was very intentional about growing this movement. Every last Saturday of the month from 2014, except for the COVID time, we've been organizing the rides, and we make it affordable and accessible to anyone. We have 5-year-olds, we have 75-year-olds, and now for the past 2 years, every month we have more than 350 cyclists. And what we've done with that movement is we've showcased that, first of all, cyclists exist in a city like Nairobi. It's a very chaotic city. We have a chaotic transport system, but people still want to cycle despite the infrastructure. In 2019, I had a chance to speak at a TED Talk, and I made there's a report, transport planning report, that really upset me when I started becoming a cycling advocate. And it said that there are less than 2% of cyclists in Nairobi. And I got really offended because I was like, this is not true. This is not the case. So I've made it my life mission to prove that study wrong, GIZ. And also just try to, tell people in my profession, engineers, urban planners, that there's a way to look at transport planning without necessarily focusing on the data. Data is good, but how do I quantify happiness? How do I quantify sorrow? How do I quantify fear? Mobility is beyond the data, the distance, the kilometers. It's about how people interact with the infrastructure that we are responsible for. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say, didn't I say you're going to be inspired by amazing people and their stories?
Yes, I mean, the introduction itself was so inspiring. I do want to go back to the issue of a feminist transport system that values inclusion and equity. And Andrea, I'm going to ask you to speak first. You have been advocating to replace the word informal transport with popular transport. So can you talk a little bit about popular transport, as well as how do you include a larger set of voices? When we talk about inclusion, it's of course women, but it's a lot of other people who have also been excluded traditionally.
Yeah, sure. When I think about a feminist transport system, I think of one that doesn't leave anyone behind. And currently, our existing transport systems are leaving so many people behind. There's a lack of access, there's a lack of frequencies, the design is not reaching a lot of people, it's not catering to everyone's needs, and that's where this, now that we call it popular, I'll explain it a bit, that's where informality rises. It's a result of unsatisfied mobility needs. So it's not, the informality, it's not the problem itself. It's the unsatisfied mobility needs and the poorly planned and designed system, that's the problem. We're leaving so many people behind. The result is people will find a way to move around. So that's why we've tried to change the narrative from this is a problem to this is an asset. These are systems that are designed from people to people. They are moving millions of people in cities where there's hardly any government-provided public transport, but it's still seen as a problem. So we're trying to change that narrative, and we're calling it for what it is. It's a homegrown solution. It's a popular mode of transportation. It's a solution that is designed thinking of demand, of where people are traveling, where they're going to, what do they need. So that's why we're trying to first start from there, understanding it as an asset that is providing access to so many people in cities. And from there, we need to start integrating it to the existing transport systems and to plan according to the existing mode of transportation in these cities, rather than trying to eradicate it and plant something on top. That's usually the approach. So we're going to be talking a bit more in the afternoon about this with some examples of how it's being done well. But I think the essential message I would say is we need to stop ignoring popular transport. We need to stop thinking about it as a problem, and we need to start trying to understand how it works and how to improve it and build upon it, rather than just seeing it as an issue and a problem, because it's solving a lot of needs right now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Keisha, I want to ask you to sort of reflect on, anyway, those of you who want to follow her bicycling journey, she's on Twitter. Day 1, day 2, she's posting. So, you know, you talked about living in Manila and getting bicycle tracks and other things, but we also know that many of these cities, whether in Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, they're choked with traffic jams. They're choked because we followed a model of development whereby we said what we need to do with roads is to move cars faster, right? And that is what your work is challenging. And I think if you could talk a little bit about what are the benefits of designing a city which is more caring?
Yeah, so actually my transport, my mobility story just started in 2016. So before that, I was a journalism graduate from university. And I realized that one day I was carpooling with one of my neighbors, a mother who just started working again after 3 years of being like a full-time mother, taking care of her child. And then we started around the same time. So when we were carpooling going back, it was taking us like 2.5 hours for maybe like, I don't know, 30 kilometers. And in the middle of the traffic jam, she was telling me, you know, I never get to see my son anymore. It's so different for me now because every time I have to leave for work, he's still asleep at 5 a.m. And when I get home at 10 p.m., he's asleep already. So that's when I started thinking, wait a minute, that's so unfair that so many families are being pulled apart because the transport system is just not letting them see their own families and have their own time. And so I started working towards like, how do I make sure that in the future or even now, families can spend more time together or people can do other things that they love doing, you know, cycling, painting, dancing, etc., instead of being stuck waiting for public transport or waiting in a traffic jam or being scared for your life cycling or walking for kilometers. Like, how do we make sure that our families are okay? And for me, that's actually where this feminist transport system comes from. Like, how do we make sure that parents can spend time with their families and children get home safe from schools? Like in the Philippines, 38 children every day die from road crashes. Every single day, 38. So that's 38 grieving mothers, fathers, friends. Like, how do you explain that to their friends, to their classmates, that they got hit by a car? That's an extremely unjust system that, you know, mothers shouldn't have to worry about. And that's what I'm fighting towards, like road safety, but at the same time, making mobility so accessible that we can spend time doing the things we love and spending time with our families. So, yeah, that's what I'm fighting towards.
Sonal, I want to ask you to, I mean, these are experiences, very clear experiences, which is, and I think even Insa mentioned it, I think the personal as political, prioritizing or center staging the work of care. How do we sort of do this in a way that is sustainable, that can truly bring about change? From your experience, from your writing, if you can share some thoughts about this.
It's a big one, Kalpana. Okay. I think I'll just build on what I shared earlier about being a misfit, maybe, and then see how I can explain that. Back in 2009, I was in Mumbai. We were working on a plan to improve pedestrian accessibility to a metro station. And 2009 for India was one of the earlier days around advocating for non-motorized transport. We just had a national program on urban areas in 2006. And this was new for me because this was a young advocate. I had worked in the consulting world. And we were really trying to build a rapport with decision makers at the time. And then, so I looked up, and I really looked up to one of my senior male colleagues who was good at this. And I was like, how do you build a rapport? What do I do? Because I'm working hard. It's not like I'm not. And so he said this, is that he often tries to meet a decision maker outside of office hours. And because that's when they have time to think. And they generally have informal conversations over drinks. This is India. We are a conservative society. And I was like, well, I don't know whether I can do that. And at that point, I think that was also a point of saying is that, well, the rules of advocacy are also very gendered, and that how do I find my own ways of building rapport that allows me to do this in a way, because sometimes we know that these boundaries are important for us to establish our professionalism. So I think this is what I meant when I said being comfortable with being a misfit so that we center our gendered experiences and find our ways. I think this was just an example.
Thanks, Sonal. I think that's... I really think that this community that is being built is truly challenging that, I think we're saying that we can do things differently. And it is not possible. It's not just India being a conservative place. I think many women don't want to spend after work hours drinking with strange bureaucrats, it's So Yasmine, I think you're a youth advocate. You have many hats that you wear. You're also studying, doing a PhD, and I think there is a lot of understanding today that, what is it that young people want? How do we listen to the voices of young people? So if you can just share some of your thoughts, some of the things you've been doing. Over to you.
So interesting question. As a young road safety advocate, I'm deeply disturbed of the fact that 1,000 young people lose their lives on the world roads every day. Road crashes have been the biggest killer of young people over a decade. Unfortunately, I lost my friend 2 weeks ago when I wanted to do my visa to come to here. The global plan for the second decade of action for road safety has finally recognized us as key stakeholders. This brings for us so much hope. But unfortunately, neither young people included meaningfully in implementation, design, or review of road safety action. If you want to achieve the target of reducing road traffic injuries and death by 50% by 2030, we want to work with young road safety advocates. If we want to see a change in road crashes statistics, we must be at the same table as policymakers. Instead of blaming us for dangerous road behavior, we want policymakers to protect us by co-designing safe and sustainable mobility system that meets our need and perspective. We want to speak for ourselves and ensure our voices are heard in the policies shaping our future. This requires meaningful youth participation, offering idea and a systematic and strategic approach that involve key stakeholders working with and for youth. And meaningful youth participation starts with acknowledging power and providing youth with the tools, resources, and opportunities to start a step into their power. I understand how it's beneficial, not just for youth, but for all generations. And meaningful youth participation is not just one-time effort, it's ongoing commitment that involve government, NGO, academic institution. We are not just for manipulation, we are not decoration, we are not just participants for show. We really want that our idea, skills, and experience to be meaningfully. We are claiming our space. Thank you.
Absolutely. I like that. We are not decoration. I think women have been saying that for a long time too. And I think tokenism is something we should not accept. We have to listen to voices. Cyprine, your journey has been interesting, from an urban planner to an activist to a bicyclist. Can you share some of your challenges and some of the moments that you felt, this is a big hill I have to climb?
Well, over the years, I've obviously experienced a lot of challenges, and it's funny that Yasmine is saying that they're not decoration. My line usually is, we are not flower girls. We are not here to be your flower girl. Mm. So I have, this journey of growing critical mass has been very interesting, but also very challenging. Many times we would go to workshops, where we have experts talking, saying good things, but many times you could tell even the experts don't know what they're talking about. They've not really done the work. They've not gone to site to actually understand, for example, why pedestrians keep getting killed on the same spot. We just come up with another solution. We are not trying to understand how young people travel, how old people travel. We are not thinking about that. We are just saying, we are always pointing outwards. This person was not being careful enough. This person should have used the footbridge that is 200 meters away. But we never look at ourselves and ask ourselves, why is this happening year in, year out? So growing critical mass has been, again, interesting because it's a movement that has grown without any resources. Nobody finances us. We do this ourselves. People volunteer to grow something that is bigger than themselves. I know it's very crazy that it has grown to this, it has grown this big through just people volunteering, but it's because I came to understand that people actually care about living better lives and about their transport systems, but we just don't involve them in this planning process. We sit in a boardroom and then give them the solution. We don't go on the ground and ask them. We don't sit with children to ask children, are you safe crossing six lanes? We don't ask them those questions. But they know how they feel when they cross those, wide lanes. And, I had an interesting experience a few weeks ago where I went to a school and I was interacting with 4 to 7-year-olds, and I was teaching them about road safety, cycling road safety. And they were so happy. They're like, Mom, can we cycle to school? Can we do this? And the mom was like, yes, I would love to, but it's so dangerous out there. And then one of the girls asked the mom, can we make it safe? And the mom looked at me like, Cyprine, can we make it safe? And I was like, I will try. And the thing about growing a movement is if you empower the community to own something, to want something for themselves, it's much easier for you to have change. Nairobi has changed so much because of the quiet advocacy that we do. We're not really trying to fight the government. So it's just making people learn that they have a right to safe transport system, and they will fight their own fight. It's not easy, but it's possible. What we've done in Nairobi can be done anywhere else around the world. Infrastructure is obviously one of the biggest challenges that we have. So one of the things that we began doing, we came up with a concept called the Nairobi bike train. And it's pretty informal, but it's working. We mapped out the city. We have 8 corridors where we looked at all the neighborhoods in the city, and we basically developed a train schedule, a bike train schedule, where the people around that area would identify where they wanted their bike stops to be, and they would commute at certain times together. And the reason for that was because a lot of people want to cycle, but they're afraid to cycle by themselves. They wanted to do it together because, safety in numbers. And we knew we could not really force infrastructure to be built. So we decided to try more informal ways of achieving our targets. So that's one of the ways. But I have an endless list of challenges, but what I know for sure is there is hope. Things are changing. People want different things as far as mobility is concerned. Young people don't want to own cars, so we need to go back and ask them, what do you want? They want to ride scooters to school, to work, they want to do that. So I feel like it's been difficult, but it's changing. Things are easier now. Things are better. We just need to go back and do more work.
Thank you. Robin, you spoke a lot about your personal journey a little in your talk, but I think, as someone who's been in the field for a long time, when you're hearing some of these stories, when you're hearing, we don't want to be flowers, we don't want to be decoration, these are still the challenges, we still have to schmooze after work hours. Maybe you could give some insights from your experience, some things you may have done differently. A thoughtful answer we need for that one.
That was a tough.
I think it's on here.
That was a tough question. Just as I was listening to this, I wanted to make 2 comments. When Dana was talking about she didn't want to go to have drinks afterwards, I wanted to point out that my Zipcar co-founder, the way we met each other was our 5-year-olds were best friends in kindergarten. So there are we don't have to go to the golf course to make friends or drink. There's other ways. And last night I did a podcast for TUMI, and just reflecting on one of the end questions was, how do we address this constant clawback of space in our city streets? And people can't envision the possibility, and politicians won't do it. they aren't strong enough. And I'm so admirous of what you've been doing with the critical mass. And my reflection, and I feel like Zipcar squeezed this idea in, is demonstration projects and pilots, I think, are politically acceptable, politically viable ways of making change. And so it's a way we can say, you know what, let's carve out these 8 feet on these 8 paths, and we're only going to do it for 6 months. It's only 6 months. Don't worry about it. We'll take it off if it doesn't work. We'll learn. We'll make these changes. And those pilots that are just temporary, and I want to make a sign to Jeanette Sadat Khan of New York City, my colleague. It enables people to envision it, to witness what the change actually is. And I think, and we know this from congestion pricing in Stockholm, it's the way to take away the fear, and then people like it. You always have some people who continue to hate it, but I look at it and I think, the startups that I've done, we started very small, and I want to say they were kind of like pilots. I'm not investing hundreds of millions of dollars. We're doing this on no money and making the push, say, wow, this is successful, can we expand on the success? And so that is the piece, as I think how we struggle so hard against the status quo at this moment. What are the ways we can call something a demonstration project or a pilot and make it seem less threatening and show here's the path forward and keep going?
Thank you. I think that's a very sort of practical way of, trying to change things. Yeah. So we have about another 10 minutes before we wind up, and I think that the journeys that all of you have talked about, have been inspiring, challenging, and trying to create something. Because in a sense, all of us are trying to create a change that is that we have a vision that can be done, but we're not sure how it's going to be done. We have some ideas. We are tripping, falling, picking ourselves up, as we go along. And I think the fact that we have a bigger community that has our back is what is empowering about such a network. So I'm going to give each one of you about 2 minutes for last thoughts around, it could be what is the message you want to give other women who want to get into transport. It could be what do you think is still left out. It could be a message to your earlier self. It could be anything. I mean, go for it. And any of you can start.
I'm going to follow on. I just feel like sometimes when I do these panels, I suddenly have my own epiphanies. And I want to say it is an epiphany to me to think about, I feel like the startups that I did were done in the old-fashioned way with extremely little money and and so I'm just realizing now that there's a really strong parallel to NGO and advocacy work in that when we started Zipcar, we had really little money, and I was using all of my friends and all of their talents to volunteer to help me, to do something for free or to do something for low cost, all with the goal of demonstrating success in the smallest little inkling of success, and then you can build on success. So when you have success, then you might be able to get money, or you will get other people attracted. And I'd never thought of the parallel between these ideas and I feel like the moment we're in, the tools that we have make it more likely and more possible. So social media, for all its horrors, and the ubiquity of cell phones means that this communication and enlisting others to help at low cost is a greater possibility. I don't want to say nothing is easy, but you can do it. You can do it with slightly more ease. And so it's just interesting to me, and I talk to entrepreneurs and I say, focus on what is the minimum viable product. What is the least you can do that will produce a successful outcome? And And so I'm just realizing, wow, there's some really interesting parallels in the ways that we're going about things.
Yesterday at dinner, Robin and I were having a conversation about all the efforts of electrification that are going on in so many countries in the world. And I come from the engineering world. I'm an environmental engineer. And so throughout my career, it was all about like efficiency. And they told us, don't talk about the emissions or saving the world, talk about how much money the companies are gonna save and how much business this is gonna bring. And I always have trouble with this, because for me, the most important thing is that there's a balance and that people are okay and the ecosystems are okay and that the world is okay. So I just kind of wanna bring back the idea, or what I was mentioning at the beginning, that sustainability has to go beyond green. And there's so much international cooperation, and there's so much investment, and there's so much policy going on right now for transport that's basically focusing only on electrification. I'm not sure if you've seen the meme that there's 100 microphones for electrification, and there's like one for biking and active mobility and public transport. We need to change that. Because if it's not inclusive, it's not sustainable. And I think that's the essential message that I would try to bring here. For all the work you're doing, the metric cannot only be kilometers, the metric can not only be emissions. We need to take into consideration well-being, quality of life, and people have to come first, and a balance between the needs of the environment and the people. If we reduce all the emissions through electrification, and there's people who cannot own a car, or can't pay for public transport, or don't even have a bike lane and they'll get killed, we're not getting there. We're not achieving sustainability. So I think that's the message that I wanted to leave as a closing.
Thank you. I think it's a very important message.
I can...
India is a graveyard of pilots. And I think, I think this is my observation. And I think maybe this is a question for all of us here, and particularly for us as well, is how do we scale up from pilots? And if we are talking about gender equitable mobility, we have examples. What will it take within the framework of the 3 Rs as well that we heard: rights, resources, representation, to achieve scale? I think this is a question that I have, both for myself and hopefully for all of us as well.
Thanks, Sonal.
You asked what would we tell our younger selves, and I thought of something. When I got into the transport field and started to understand mobility, I was really scared because I didn't know what this was. And afterwards, I came to realize, being a woman leading a group, a big group of people, I came to realize that by me being visible, the men, and being visible and being on a bicycle, the men felt that they could also do the same thing. And more women started seeing that, and they started cycling. And the more women we have on bicycles, the more children we have on bicycles. And the more children we have on bicycles, the more people with disability, start cycling. So what I would tell any other young lady, young man is, don't be afraid. Just try it. You will fail. You will learn along the way, but just keep trying. There's somebody out there who's watching you and learning from your mistakes, and also, celebrating your wins. So let's just keep up this fight. The fight is bigger than all of us.
Oh, okay. Since we are here at the 5th anniversary of this Women Mobilize Women, I want to tell everybody that 20% is too low. Come on. Like, if you know a woman who would benefit from being lifted up, do it. Like, you know, a lot of activists actually in the Philippines on transportation are led by young women who just got out of college, and they're like leading so many people to call for bike lanes in certain cities, or to make our local river a livable river. So if you know a woman in your life, young woman, or who's trying to, you know, make it to the world of mobility, lift them up, introduce them to other people, talk to them, ask them, what can I do to help you? Because it's so huge. I wish I had this when I started, honestly. And there's probably other women out there who are thinking the same. I wish I had other women who could help me. And so, you know, I'm really grateful to meet these other women with me, because it's so empowering that I wish a lot of other young women could experience this and be a part of this. And you never know, you could change someone's life just from doing one simple thing you could do and lift them up. So that's my message. Yeah.
I really agree with you. The first time I went to my advisor and I told him I want to participate in competition for civil engineering, he looked at me and he told me, are you sure you want to participate in this competition? Like, are you sure you will go to the lab? Are you sure you will mix the concrete? So he refused to send my name, and he told me, I will give you just 1 week, because I'm sure you will change your mind and you will come and tell me, I don't want to participate in this competition. So here was like a shock for me. Like, he refused just even to believe that I can do something just because I am a woman. And he accepted that my colleague is a man, to participate in this competition. Then after 1 week, he's surprised that I was going always to the lab, I was working in this competition, and we won the international competition. It was first time Lebanon win an international competition. And then he come and he told me, he came and told me, I'm so happy that you insist to participate. For this reason, I agree with you. For all women here, believe in yourself. Get advantage from any opportunity, because I'm sure that you can do something great. I'm so proud. I'm so glad I'm here today. I just have like a little comment concerning the electrical vehicle, because I'm doing research about electrical vehicle, and I'm sure it's not the solution for sustainable mobility. We need to shift from using car to like focus more and give a priority to walking, cycling, and public transportation, because every step we are doing for sustainable mobility, it will help to improve road safety and save lives of more and more people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it's always inspiring to hear all of you speak, and I think that I just would, you know, for me, I'm taking two really key lessons or points, but I think all of us should take forward from this, the rest of today, and if you're staying on for ITA for the rest of the 3 days, is that what can I do to help you? So really listen to the people that you're talking to, you know? I think that's one. But secondly, I think we, you know, as you're moving forward, keep looking back and see that you are building on the shoulders of people who have worked very hard, who have opened doors for you. And I think this intergenerational dialogue is very important to keep open. You know, we have to look back, look forward, build, and help each other, and really see, listen to each other. So have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Women Mobilize Women. Bye-bye.
So, thank you very much, ladies, for that very thoughtful session. Keisha, you're right, 20% is not enough, so thank you for saying it.